Well, good day and welcome back to our study of the book of Mark. Today, chapter 5. And this is one of the most unusual, probably bizarre stories in the Bible. And it brings up a question that we all have to consider. Do you believe in demons? In this modern world, in this modern day of science, the idea of demons and demonology has often been put aside because we want everything to be explained by what our senses can tell us and what science can tell us. But this story is about demons. And it's a story that's repeated not only in Mark but also in Matthew and Luke. So it makes us wonder, makes us question, do you really believe in demons? Because this is about a demon-possessed man. This carries on from chapter 4, where Jesus had spent all day teaching, and then after the day was over, he and his disciples set off immediately in a boat to cross to the other side of Lake Galilee. And during that time, a storm came up. A huge storm came up, so that the disciples felt that the boat was going to be capsized. And Jesus, however, was sleeping. They woke him up and he calmed the waves and calmed the wind. And this was one of the miracles, two of the miracles that Jesus performed to show and to indicate again that he was not just human. But it was Jesus that suggested that they go to the other side. He said back in verse 35 of chapter 4, now let us cross over to the other side. And he didn't really say why. It was as if he just wanted to get away from the crowds and get to a place where maybe there was some respite. But we now see later on, starting this story, that this chapter, then they came to the other side of the sea, to the country of the Gadarenes. Now, this was across, about 5 miles across the sea from where they were before. And this is no longer Jewish territory. This now is in Gentile land, to the land of the Gadarenes. And when he had come out of the boat, now it says Jesus got out of the boat. It doesn't say anybody else did, but probably they did. But anyway, it says when Jesus got out of the boat, immediately there met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit. So this man was demon-possessed. We might try to put him into some psychiatric or some psychological terminology today, but according to the time then, and perhaps even today, this man was demon-possessed. He had an unclean spirit. But whenever Jesus arrived, he came out of the tombs where he was living to meet Jesus. Now, in Matthew, it says when he had come to the other side, to the country of the Gadarenes, which is a different type of terminology, but a different area encompassing the Gadarenes that we mentioned before. It had met him 2 demon-possessed men coming out of the tombs, exceedingly fierce, so that no one could pass that way. So Matthew says there were 2 men. Mark only says that there were 1, and Luke says that there was 1. There met him a certain man from the city who had demons for a long time. So this man had demons for a long time. Whether there were 2 or 1, perhaps it was only because Mark and Luke were talking about the most important person, and the other one sort of got put a little aside. But whether there were 1 or 2, it makes little difference, because this man or these men were demon-possessed. And it says in Luke that they had had this for a long time. So he came out of the boat. Jesus came out of the boat. There met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit who had his dwelling among the tombs, and no one could bind him, not even with chains. This man was really wild. He was what we would call today a manic. He was uncontrollable. He had superhuman strength when he was in one of these states. And he couldn't be bound even with chains, because he would, as it says before, he had often been bound with shackles and chains, and the chains that had been pulled apart by him, and the shackles broken in pieces. Neither could anyone tame him. So this man who had this possession, this demon possession for a long time, had apparently been driven or taken or somehow removed from the city, and he now was living in the tombs with the dead. And he apparently was very loud. He would scream at night. He would be noisy at night. He said no one could tackle. Always night and day he was in the mountains and in the tombs crying out and cutting himself with stones. He was, whether this was just a means of self-molestation or whether he was actually trying to kill himself, we don't know. But anyway, he was cutting himself with stones, the same way some people today, when they're in a psychological disturbance, cut themselves. So this man was wild, he was fierce, he was supernaturally strong. He lived by himself, or a few people lived by themselves in the tombs because they were not in the cities. And they were just very, very wild, uncontrollable people. And according to Luke, they had been like this for a long time. But whenever Jesus stepped out of the boat, this man, or men, came down to meet him. And it says, when he saw Jesus from afar, he ran and worshipped him. Now, was this the man per se worshiping Jesus, or was this the demons in the man worshiping Jesus? Because it says that the devils, the demons, know who Jesus is, and they tremble. So when this demon-possessed man came and worshipped Jesus, and he cried out with a loud voice and said, "What have I to do with you, Jesus, Son of the Most High God?" Now, if you notice from the beginning of Mark, this is the first time that really Jesus was called out as being the Son of the Most High God. A demon before it recognized him, but demons recognized Jesus before men did, according to the stories. The demons recognized who Jesus was. And he said, "What have I to do with you, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I implore you by God that you do not torment me." Now these demons who have been tormenting this man for years are now asking Jesus not to torment them. So what you have here is a spiritual conversation, not between the man and Jesus, but between the demons in the man and Jesus. Demons who are fully aware of what Jesus can do, who he is, and what their ultimate fate is going to be. But now they're talking because he does not want, the demons do not want Jesus to torment them or torment him, even though he's been tormenting this man. And he says, "Do not torment me." For he said to him, "Come out of the man, unclean spirit." Then he asked him, "What is your name?" Now there are many types of people who did exorcisms, who did demon possession, who tried to clean demon-possessed people in those days, and they always wanted to know the names. So the demon called Jesus by name, Son of the Most High God, and then Jesus asked the demon, "What was your name?" And he answered, saying, "My name is Legion, for we are many." Now, the term legion is really not a name, but a military term. We have to remember that this was the time and the days of the Roman occupation of this land. And one of the main Roman military units was called a legion. So by using the name legion, the demon was implying that there were many of them in this man. And a legion, a Roman legion of soldiers, could be anywhere from 4,000 to 6,000 soldiers. So we have no idea how many demons were in this man, although we can see later that there were quite a few. But he was saying by legion, he was implying there was a large number. There was a large number of demons involved in this person. And they had control of him. They were the ones that were making him act the way he did in a bizarre, aggressive, hostile, and self-destructive manner. Much as people today who could be demon-possessed, perhaps are in many cases, act in the same way towards themselves, hostile, angry, self-destructive in many ways. So this was the scene. Jesus had come to this shore, to this place where there were cliffs and tombs just below the city. And he met this man, or this man came out of the tombs to meet him, almost as if this had been a pre-arranged meeting. And Jesus asked this man, what was the trouble? What is your problem? And the demon spoke back to Jesus, saying, what have we to do with you? What have you to do with us? Have you come to torment us? And he answered, the answer saying, my name is Legion. The demon answered, my name is Legion, for we are many. Also he begged him earnestly that he would not send him out of the country. Now, this is a strange sort of request. They would not send him out of the country. These demons were apparently quite happy and quite satisfied doing what they were doing to this poor man. It says in Matthew, the demon says, what have we to do with you, Jesus, you Son of God? Have you come here to torment us before the time? And it says in Luke, that begged him that he would not command them to go out into the abyss. So the demons were imploring Jesus not to send them out of the country, into the abyss before the time. And we all know, if you read the Bible at all, that there's a time when the demons are to be bound forever, bound into the abyss or into the lake of fire. This is in Revelation. And there's a timeline for this, apparently. Jesus and God know when this timeline is going to be, and also apparently so do the demons. And this is to happen after Christ's second coming, not Christ's first coming, which is what was occurring during this episode. So the demons are saying, what have you to do with us now, Jesus? It is not time. It is not the appointed time for us to go into the abyss or to be sent somewhere out of the country. It is not the time. What are you doing with this? Why are you here now? Why are you here now? So Jesus is saying, the demon is saying, pardon me, he begged him earnestly that he would not send him out of the country or into the abyss before the time which had been appointed for this to happen. So there was a large herd of swine feeding near the mountains. Now the fact that this was Gentile territory is further evidence, the fact that there were swine there, because Jews were not permitted to eat pork. There were no pigs kept in the Jewish countryside. but there's a large herd of swine here. And so all of the demons begged him, saying, "Send us to the swine that we may enter them." And at once Jesus gave them permission. Then the unclean spirits went out and entered the swine. There were about 2,000. And the herd ran violently down the steep place into the sea and drowned in the sea. So there were a large number of demons in this man. They entered into this large herd of swine, and the swine then drowned. It says in Luke, a herd of many swine was feeding there on the mountain, so they begged him that he would permit them to enter them, and he permitted them. Then the demons went out of the man and entered the swine, who ran violently down the steep place into the lake and drowned. And Matthew says roughly the same thing. When he said, "Go," when the demons begged him, saying, "If you cast us out, permit us to go away into the herd of swine." And he said to them, "Go." So when they'd come out and went into the herd of swine, and suddenly the whole herd of swine ran violently down the steep place into the sea and perished in the water. So there were a large number of demons in this man, who then entered into the swine. Now why Jesus did not just send them, why does he not get rid of all the demons? Why does he just not say, destroy them all now? Because right now they apparently are not part of his plan. They are part of his plan for us and his plan for the universe and for the world. We have to go according to God's plan, not according to what we wish. Many times it's easy to think that God could correct everything and make everything like a paradise right now, but that's not in his plan. We have to show him. We have free will and have to show him our love and respect for him if we are to get into his paradise. So now it is really up to us to act the proper way to get to that place where we can enter paradise. So the swine were the recipients of all the demons, and the swine ended up killing themselves. It says that those who fed the swine fled. So there were people with the swine when this all happened, and they fled. They were scared. They were frightened. And they told it in the city and in the country, and they went out to see what it was about. So these people who fed the swine ran. They left into the city and into the county, and they told other people what had happened, who then came out to see for themselves what was going on. Then they came to Jesus and saw the one who had been demon-possessed and had the legion sitting and clothed and in his right mind. You see, this man apparently had been naked before. It says in Luke that he was naked. He a certain man from the city had demons for a long time, and he wore no clothes. So he was demon-possessed, he was naked, but now he was clothed, sitting there quietly, peacefully, and apparently in his right mind. Sitting and clothed in his right mind, and they were afraid. When they saw the transformation in this man, when they saw what had happened to the swine, they were really frightened. Just as the disciples had been when they saw what Jesus had done to the wind and to the waves. Those who saw it told him how it had happened to him and who had been demon-possessed, and about the swine. But they also, although they had seen this and were afraid, they had also suffered quite a financial loss because of the swine being now driven into the sea. So they began to plead to them to get out of the region. Go away. Do your miracle somewhere else. We don't want you here. This was all in Gentile territory. And then it says right after that, Jesus got back into the boat. The man who had been demon-possessed wanted to go with him. Jesus did not permit him because he wanted him to stay there. Go home to your friends and tell them the great things the Lord has done for you and how he had compassion on you. People of the cities and of the county had driven this man from the areas of habitation into the tombs to live because they could not handle him. And he had been demon-possessed for a long time. Now he was apparently sane and in his right mind. He was quiet, he was placid, he was clothed. And Jesus wanted him to go back to his family, go back to your friends, and explain to them what had happened and how Jesus had more compassion on him than the other town and the people in the town and the county had. And Jesus departed, and the man departed and began to proclaim in Decapolis, which is really a terminology for 10 towns or 10 cities in that area, Decapolis. All that Jesus had done for him, and all marveled. This is a story, obviously, about a very sick, tormented person who had been possessed by demons and who Christ healed. And this is the only apparent thing that Christ did when it came to the other side through the storm. When it came to this other side from where he had originally been preaching. Was this the whole purpose of his journey? Was this the main reason he came for this one particular person? It shows how far God can go, how far Jesus will go for anyone who will meet him, because the man came out to meet him. It says in Revelation, behold, I stand at the door and knock. If someone lets me in, I will come in and sup with him. If someone will meet with Jesus, Jesus will go to any lengths to meet with that person. So we went across the sea, through a storm, to meet with this one man, or two men, one man anyway, so that he could treat him and free him from demon possession. It says in the next line, in verse 21, now when Jesus had crossed again by boat to the other side, back to where he'd come from initially. So this apparently was the main reason why Jesus had come across the sea, was for this one person. So this is the story of this demon-possessed man. Do you believe in demons? If you don't, this makes no sense. But if you do, then it shows how far Jesus will go to meet with people. And when you answer that question of whether you believe in demons or not, if you don't believe in demons, how can you believe in good spirits, such as the Holy Spirit? If there's one, there's obviously the other. So we believe in the Holy Spirit. We have to accept also that there are demons. And this is what happens when they get into us. So there's a lot more to this than meets the eye. Jesus went across the sea through a storm, through the night, to meet one person, to cure him, to rid him of demons. And then he goes back again to the side from which he had originally come. This is the story of the demon-possessed man as told in Matthew, Mark, and in Luke. And that's the whole story that's there in this part of the Bible. So we'll get on to further in chapter 5 next week. I hope you understood this and enjoyed it, and I hope you'll join me next week as we go further on in chapter 5 in this study of Mark. Bye for now.